The year is 2025. Across the vast expanse of the North American continent, a chill has settled over Canada-U.S. relations. What was once a partnership built on mutual respect and shared interests is now showing visible signs of strain. From the westernmost reaches of the country, British Columbia has stepped forward with a bold and potentially controversial plan. The province intends to impose tolls on commercial trucks, specifically targeting those vehicles. These tolls will affect commercial trucks traveling from the U.S. through British Columbia en route to Alaska. This decision has far-reaching implications for trade and transportation in the region. This move is not arbitrary, it is a direct and calculated response. The decision comes as a reaction to threats of new U.S. tariffs on Canadian goods, a move that could significantly impact the Canadian economy. Premier David Eby has publicly stated that the implementation of these tolls is a necessary measure. He argues that the tolls are a way to shield BCY's economy from the potential fallout of these tariffs, acting as a financial buffer against economic uncertainty. The revenue generated from these tolls would be strategically allocated to help offset damages. These damages are anticipated to arise from any American trade measures that negatively impact British Columbia's economy. With this action, BC is sending a clear and unequivocal message. The province is making it clear that it won't passively accept harmful trade actions that threaten its economic stability. The province is determined to protect jobs within its borders and safeguard the industries that form the backbone of its economy. This bold move sets the stage for what could become a serious and protracted trade dispute between Canada and the United States. While Canada and the U.S. have historically enjoyed a relationship characterized by close cooperation and mutual benefit, these new tensions represent a real and significant test of that relationship, potentially reshaping the dynamics between the two nations. Other provinces across Canada are closely monitoring the situation and are also actively considering their own responses to the evolving trade landscape. The next few months will be a crucial period. These coming months will be critical in determining how this situation ultimately unfolds and what the long-term outcomes will be for both countries. The story is about more than just tolls and tariffs. It's about national sovereignty, economic independence, and the strategies nations employ to defend their interests in an increasingly complex global economy. The stakes for both Canada and the U.S. are exceptionally high as they navigate this challenging period in their relationship. The spark for BC's ambitious toll plan, a strategy designed to bolster its economic resilience, is rooted in the very real and persistent threats emanating from former President Trump, specifically his repeated threats of imposing new tariffs on Canadian goods entering the United States. These threats, often delivered with characteristic bluntness, have created a palpable sense of unease and deep uncertainty, rippling through the core of Canadian businesses, from small enterprises to large corporations. The prospect of tariffs has forced them to reevaluate their strategies and consider potential disruptions to their supply chains. Billions of dollars worth of goods cross the border daily, a testament to the deeply integrated nature of the North American economy. New tariffs, however, could significantly alter this dynamic, making Canadian products considerably pricier and less competitive for American consumers, potentially impacting demand and market share. This shift in competitiveness could translate into job losses and inflict significant harm to key Canadian industries, particularly those heavily reliant on exports to the U.S. market, such as lumber, energy, and agriculture. Premier Eby has publicly condemned Trump's rhetoric, characterizing it as an unprecedented and unacceptable threat to Canadian sovereignty and economic stability. In response, BC is actively preparing to defend itself against these external pressures, exploring various strategies to mitigate the potential damage. The looming threat of tariffs, like a dark cloud on the horizon, forces Canadian leaders at all levels to take decisive action and explore all available options. The toll plan, therefore, is not simply a knee-jerk reaction, but a calculated and considered response, carefully designed to navigate a high-stakes trade standoff with a potentially unpredictable partner. The federal government in Ottawa, along with Canadian business leaders across the country, are watching the situation closely, analyzing every development and assessing the potential ramifications. Everyone involved fervently hopes to avoid a full-blown and damaging trade war, which would undoubtedly have devastating consequences for both economies. But Canada is making it abundantly clear that it won't be pushed around or intimidated, and is prepared to stand its ground in the face of unfair trade practices. The atmosphere is undeniably tense, fraught with uncertainty and anxiety, and the ultimate outcome of this trade dispute remains uncertain, hanging in the balance. The next move, whether it be a concession, a further escalation, or a negotiated settlement, could significantly shape the future of North American trade relations for years to come, potentially reshaping the entire continental trade network. BC 38's proposed tolls target commercial trucks traveling from the lower 48 to Alaska. This isn't a blanket toll, it's focused on a key trade route. The plan aims to highlight the cost of disrupting established trade flows. High-value, time-sensitive goods like fresh produce and oil supplies rely on these routes. Taxing these shipments could have a real impact on Alaska's supply chain. No specific toll rates or start date have been announced yet. Premier Eby says these measures are tools to use if U.S. tariffs become reality. The tolls would generate revenue to support BC industries hit by American protectionism. This is more than retaliation, it's economic defense. BC wants to cushion any blow from U.S. trade actions. The province is being proactive, not just reactive. The message: BC is ready to respond if needed. Alaska depends on overland routes through Canada, especially British Columbia. These highways are a lifeline for goods like fresh food and oil industry supplies. Disruptions could mean higher prices and delays for Alaskans. Ocean shipping isn't always an option for urgent or specialized goods. Trucking through BC offers speed and flexibility that ships can't match. The proposed tolls directly target this vital link. Alaskans are watching closely, aware of their supply chain's vulnerability. Higher costs and delays could hit families and industries hard. The situation shows how decisions in BC can impact daily life in Alaska. The region's economies are deeply interconnected. This is more than a local issue. It's a cross-border challenge. The stakes for Alaska are immediate and real. The proposed tolls have sent ripples of concern throughout Alaska, reaching the highest levels of state leadership. The potential impact on the Alaskan economy and the daily lives of its residents is a significant worry. Governor Mike Dunleavy has been particularly vocal, urging British Columbia to carefully reconsider the implementation of these tolls and their potential ramifications. He emphasized the critical need for a stable and predictable trade environment between Alaska and Canada, highlighting the long-standing economic ties that benefit both regions. Recognizing the gravity of the situation, Governor Dunleavy has also called upon both the federal governments of the United States and Canada to engage in constructive dialogue and find a swift resolution to this tariff dispute. State Senator Robert Myers, who brings a unique perspective as a trucker himself, has also voiced his concerns. He warned that the imposition of these tolls could lead to disruptions in the timely and efficient delivery of essential goods and services to Alaskan communities. These essentials include vital supplies such as food and oil, which are crucial for sustaining life and economic activity in the state. Senator Myers also pointed out that implementing the tolls would be technically straightforward, as they could be easily integrated into the existing infrastructure at weigh stations along the trade routes. Leaders within the trucking industry have expressed their apprehension, predicting that the tolls would inevitably lead to a rise in operational costs. They also fear that these increased costs could potentially disrupt established supply chains, creating inefficiencies and delays in the movement of goods. Ultimately, these additional expenses incurred by the trucking companies would likely be passed on to consumers. This would translate to higher prices for everyday goods and services for Alaskan consumers. It's important to remember that Alaska already grapples with a significantly high cost of living compared to many other parts of the United States. Therefore, any further increase in expenses is undoubtedly unwelcome news for residents. The overall sentiment in Alaska is one of anxiety and uncertainty, as families and business owners alike express their worries about the potential for even higher prices on essential goods and services. The people of Alaska are hoping for a swift and peaceful resolution to this dispute, one that avoids any further economic strain. They are heavily reliant on the smooth and uninterrupted flow of trade with Canada for their economic well-being. The proposed tolls are perceived as a significant threat, potentially jeopardizing the stability of these crucial trade routes. This is seen as a potential disruption to the long-standing and mutually beneficial relationship between Alaska and Canada. The prevailing hope is that cooler heads will prevail, leading to constructive dialogue and a mutually agreeable solution, rather than an escalation of tensions. BC isn't acting alone. Other provinces and the federal government are joining in. Prime Minister Trudeau has announced retaliatory tariffs if U.S. tariffs go ahead. Ontario's Premier Doug Ford plans a 25% surcharge on electricity exports to the U.S. Yukon, is halting liquor store purchases from American companies and limiting U.S. access to government contracts. Yukon's Premier stresses these moves defend Canadian sovereignty, not target Alaskans. Across Canada, there's a sense of unity against American protectionism. Provinces are using their economic leverage to push back. The message Canada will defend its jobs and industries. Some in Yukon even suggest more drastic measures. The depth of feeling is clear. Canada is not taking U.S. threats lightly. These actions show a coordinated national response. The stakes are high for both countries. The trade dispute is now a national issue. BC forest tolls could quickly lead to higher prices in Alaska. Transportation companies would pass new costs to businesses and consumers. Everyday goods, especially fresh food, could become more expensive. Supply chains might face delays and shortages. Alaska's oil industry could see disruptions in crucial supplies. Implementing tolls would require new infrastructure and legislation. International agreements could complicate things further. These measures add complexity to cross-border trade. They risk a cycle of retaliation and escalating trade barriers. Economic growth and cooperation are at stake. The situation is a stark reminder of how fragile trade relationships can be. BC's response goes beyond tolls. Premier Abe is pushing for the province to stop buying American products where possible. Provincial liquor stores are halting sales from Republican-led states. BC is also working to remove internal Canadian trade barriers. The province is promoting Canadian energy independence by sourcing low-carbon fuels domestically. The goal: build economic resilience and reduce reliance on unstable partners. BC wants to be ready for rapid responses to U.S. actions. These moves reflect a shift toward greater self-sufficiency. The province is preparing for a new economic reality. Canada is rethinking its approach to trade in an uncertain world. The BC-U.S. dispute is more than a regional spat, it's a test for Canada-U.S. relations. The proposed tolls and retaliatory measures escalate trade tensions at a challenging time for global commerce. North American economies are deeply interconnected. Disruptions in one country ripple across the border. Alaska's reliance on Canadian routes highlights this link. Political decisions in one capital affect lives far away. Canada's assertive response signals a shift from its usual diplomatic approach. The message: Canada will defend its interests and sovereignty. These decisions matter for businesses, workers, and consumers on both sides. The future of North American trade is at stake. Careful negotiation is needed to avoid a damaging trade war. The coming months will determine the long-term impact of these moves. The relationship is being tested as never before. The outcome will shape the region's economic future.